What am I talking about today? I'm talking about I became a level 999 Mastermind Demon King. I don't know why I read it like that. Whatever. Yeah. What is this? Well, it's an isekai, prick. Because of course I do isekais. Everything is an isekai. What isn't an isekai? I don't know. No, but yeah, it is an isekai. Alright. If you haven't seen these videos before, which, I mean, that makes me sad, but hey, whatever, that's cool. You can, whatever, that's fine. But if you haven't seen these videos before, the general idea is I give you a rating off the bat, and then I go into why I gave it that rating. I'm not going to go into any spoilers or anything. I'm just going to give you like a little gist of why I gave you that rating, and maybe allude to things in more general terms. So yeah, for this series, I'm a little I'm up in the air here because in terms of just like just being an enjoyable series, I think it was pretty good. But if I'm being objective, I have to be a little more critical. So I'm a little torn. Okay, I'm a little torn. I think objectively speaking, it's probably closer to like a 7. But I think in terms of fun, I give it like an 8. It's pretty fun. I enjoyed it. It was a fun series. Doesn't really do anything new, but it's fun. Alright, let's get into why. Why am I saying that? I don't know. Just kidding. Alright. So, general gist. Of course it's an isekai, because yes, I always do isekais, so this is the main girl. She was isekai'd. She goes and meets God and all that stuff, who's hard to see because he's so freaking bright. The general gist, I guess, with the whole isekai thing is she was sick for all of her life. Ends up dying in the hospital because her parents can't afford, any of her medical bills and keeping her alive and things like that. She didn't have like bad parents or anything. A lot of these isekais are like, oh, my parents suck and they did all these horrible things, or my family's just awful and now I'm getting a new chance. No, but she had a hard life, right? Like she couldn't really do much. She was stuck in the hospital, all that stuff. So God, this guy over here gives her a little bit of pity. And he says like, "Hey, I'll reincarnate you. Because I feel sad. I feel bad for you. I'm sorry about that." And of course she's like, "Why the hell didn't you just put me in a better life?" But whatever. So she thinks to herself, and she wants to be reincarnated as a heroine from a novel she read, because she's like, "Oh man, they're always so good. They always have it great." But forgets the name of the heroine, accidentally says the name of the villain, and then I think it's a little obvious. Yeah, so she gets reincarnated as a demon king. Yeah, that's the setup. She gets brought into the world. She's all demonic and everything. Her father's like a huge asshole and just thinks like she's evil, even though she hasn't done anything yet. And she, is able to restrain herself. She's still the person from her former life. She's not the Demon King in reality, so she, doesn't do anything crazy. He has her like locked up in a basement. He's like, she's evil. She's he knows she's going to be a demon. There's like a prophecy that she's going to, that the demon's going to spawn. The demon's going to come into existence in their territory and things like that. He finds out that she's the Demon King. Well, he assumes, because, the whole black flames thing. Black and red flames normally doesn't mean, it's normally not good. Yeah, she asks, she demands certain things, and he capitulates because he's afraid, right? And yeah, then she tries to travel away. He gives her like a, there's like little slapstick moments, like everyone, gets surprised by how, she has all these black flames, she's evil, blah blah blah, right? The gist, the general gist of these kinds of stories. Um, and yeah, I think all that stuff's well and good. I don't have any issues with any of that. It's comedically, I would say it's very like one note. The main joke is just, someone flips out because they see her like presence, and then something silly happens because of that. It's the same joke, but whatever. Okay. Yeah, so then she travels up to the, to this house that her father gave her, which is of course a shithole. It's up in the north, where it's like frozen solid and everything, but, she has access to fire, so that's not really that big of a deal. And she kind of makes like her own little land up there. She has run-ins with, like, I feel like you can tell, the Duke type, right? Who just so happens to not be a character in the original story. For reasons I won't get into. But she has little run-ins with him. He like accidentally, he happens to own the house now because of certain laws, and he doesn't want her to live there. Then he kind of assumes she's the Demon King because the fire and the appearance and everything, the aura, if you will. And a lot of it just ends up becoming like, she does something good, and then someone accidentally mistakes something she did for evil, and then, so on and so forth. But then people slowly start to like her more and more. They realize, oh, she didn't do that. She's not that bad. She's trying to help people. She's trying to be a good person. And then, this character, of course, is like, he's a little suspicious because, oh, she's the, the Demon Queen, or King, whatever, in this case. He wants to get rid of her, but she hasn't necessarily given him a good reason other than just being, just an aura, of course. So it's just kind of like a fun little back and forth, and then you get to slowly see her, win the hearts of the people, right? I don't know. I mean, I would just say it's a fun story. It's not breaking any new ground, right? Like it's still just, someone gets reincarnated, they're, the bad guy, and then they slowly change the hearts of the people. But I think it's still fun, right? Like it's a trope. Don't get me wrong, and that's why I can't, that's why objectively it's probably closer to a 7 because it's just a well done trope. But it's fun, I don't care, whatever, who cares? It's fun. I will say, wow, is this guy a piece of shit? She doesn't do anything repeatedly, and he's like, kill her! Send assassins! Get rid of her! And it's like, Jesus Christ. He's not doing anything. Also, there's a lot of, like, pretense about, like, the church being confused because of the prophecy. Like, why isn't the prophecy coming true? And I think they're alluding to the church being, bad, which is once again a pretty common trope. Like, the whole idea that, like, the bad guy is actually the good guy, and the good guy is actually the bad guy. The it's a freaking Pac-Man's a bad guy. It's that whole thing, right? But that's fine. I don't care. Who cares? It's fun, right? All I want from a good, story like this is just to have some fun with it. So it's okay if there's a little tropey. It happens, and I don't think it doesn't pick any of the tropes that bother me. It's like, the reversal of like the hero and the villain. That's fine. That's fun. The being reincarnated as the bad guy, things like that. Like it's always like the more enjoyable tropes. I'll say most of the characters are relatively one note. Actually, some of the really minor characters are kind of fun. They actually feel like people. Like, flipping out at first, realizing their actions, trying to, make up for their actions. Like, it actually feels like, a little bit of living, breathing, environment, people. Like, the background characters, I would say, are really fun. But yeah, I mean, it's a fun series. You might have noticed I didn't address this thing. And I'm not going to. Read the story if you want to know what that is. It's not my problem that you don't know how to read. Yeah, so I don't know. What should I do at the end here? I think I'll give you the old SAE. What is the SAE? Well, it's story, art, enjoyment. Um, Story-wise, I think we're getting like a 6 or a 7. You know, it's all tropes, and it's just like, I mean, there's not really any like super unique ideas going on here. It's just, yeah, it's just like a well done trope, which I think is satisfying sometimes. Art-wise, I didn't really speak about this much, but the art is like, it's it's not bad, but it's not like so stylistically outstanding that I would say it would get a good score for that. It's just okay. So I think art-wise, I'm probably around a 7 or an 8. And then enjoyment-wise, I'm thinking an 8. I really enjoyed it. It was just fun, right? I think a well done trope can be fun, and it had a lot of the tropes that I like, so I thought it was overall a pretty enjoyable series for me. What would the overall rating be? You know, I think for the sake of I think I don't want to be too generous here. So I think I'm going to mostly base it off the story and art for an objective rating. So I think on an objective scale, if I was being objective, I don't think it would deserve a 6, but I think a 7 would be a fair rating. A fair rating would be a 7. If we're talking my personal enjoyment, if you want to know how I liked it and you have a similar taste to me, then I think it could bump it up to an 8. I think my personal preference bumps this up to an 8. But yeah, I mean, I think that's about it. I'd appreciate if you could like, comment, subscribe. Leave, you know, a story that you want me to read below. I mean, even if I read it, hey, I don't care. I'll read it again. That's fine. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was okay. I'll see ya.